Okay. Well, a friend of mine had asked me to do something about some comments on the modern feminist movement. I'm actually going to do. I think I should do several videos on that. Well, cut because number one, the feminist movement is not just abortion. I mean, when you hear feminist movement, you always automatically think pro-choice, but that's not everything the feminist movement actually entails. They typically want more than just, oh well, the right to abort babies. They typically, feminist movement also wants, like, equal pay with men, and then, like, almost be treated as kind of this elite status that's, uh, like this equality with men is bit. But anyway, so kind of getting through all of that, that could also lead into issues of economics and social issues, and just basically, all the broad spectrum of life, and life's problems. Uh, so several videos will have to account for that. But this video is just kind of an introductory video to that section of life where things could get really awkward for guys, because guys can't really address all the issues, and I'm a guy, obviously. So, um, but one of the issues that can be generally spoken about is like abortion and pay, and a few social issues, but not everything can be addressed by me because I'm a guy, and so it's like it would be kind of unfair. Well, not unfair. I don't like to use that. It would be kind of be and not awkward, but it would just be kind of like, from a guy's perspective, it would be kind of uh, well, insane. Let's just put it that way. Insane for me to address every woman's issue that's out there, because I can't. But um, but the first one, which everybody is probably singing in their heads, is for me to address abortion. Now, obviously, this has been an issue that has been ramped up a lot, because those on the conservative side and the Christian side of it say, well, abortion is wrong because, well, it's murder of a little human being inside the mother, and then the feminist side of it says, well, it should be their choice to whether or not to abort the fetus inside fetus inside the mother, and or the embryo. And I say to that, well, when the typical argument comes to Psalms, where it says, well, I was, David's talking to God, saying how he was fearfully made inside his mother's womb, and, well, how do you know when something's inside his mother's womb? Is when the mother is pregnant, and she knows she's pregnant. So the human life begins at conception. So the soul of a human being is probably thrown in when that human being become when that human being when the human is conceived. So, and you could, obviously, some people, they name their child, right as they're conceived. So, and it's just one of those things where it is debated, because you don't realize that, we don't see the outside evidence of them having a soul on the inside, because it's just so tiny, and it just seems like, just insignificant. It just seems insignificant to somebody who says it just seems to be the equivalent of a little embryo inside of a chicken egg. And that's what most feminists will say. No, the embryo or the fetus is just like a little embryo inside a chicken egg. Well, for one thing, humans aren't animals, and number two, animals do not have the properties that humans do, is that animals were not created in the image of God, whereas humans are created in the image of God, and life is sacred to God. So that's why that's why Christians feel that abortion is murder and murder is wrong, and murder is clearly wrong even by secular standards. That killing somebody without killing somebody with criminal intent is it is wrong. And however, I mean, obviously there's a difference between killing somebody in war and then killing somebody just for the fun of it. But I'll have a and that's a separate issue I'll have to address later. But for now, the feminist movement wants to encourage abortion so that way women have the right to not be mothers if they'll say unwanted pregnancies, so that way they can have a this active sex life or free sex or something like that. And the problem with that is it what why would a woman subject herself to every random man that's out there, and also subject herself to something that is just vile and crude? Why should a woman be free to do that? And the common sense answer is no. The women need to be restricted just as much as men need to be restricted, and that's why we have the institution of marriage, so that way one man and one woman remain committed to each other until either one of them dies. Now I realize there's divorce and all that, but the thing is, but God says He hates divorce, so divorce is considered a sin, because anything God hates is considered a sin. So divorce is considered a sin, and it's that transgression. It is considered a transgression against God, and so there is that. And then you also have the other transgression against God, which is fornication. You're not supposed to have sexual relations unless it's inside marriage. Once it's inside marriage, go ahead. Once you're married to your spouse, that's whatever. But the feminist movement says we want free women, like have equal pay with men, and just basically being treated as a guy. And I'm like, what woman would want to be treated like a guy? Believe me, women do not want to be treated like a guy. They want to be treated like a woman. And if you're saying we want equality, equality in role, that's not going to happen. You can have equal pay, but not equality in role. In other words, men and women have different functioning roles in society. Not as far as job per se, in most instances, except church matters and house matters. But as far as job is concerned, like government job, business job, women can hold the highest position in those kinds of jobs, unless it's something as far as church matters go, or as far as something as far as church matters go, and as far as household matters go, and as far as gender-specific roles go. In other words, women don't do women's societies, and men don't, and women do women's societies, and men do men's societal things. For instance, Boy Scouts. Well, Boy Scouts is all men, so you're not going to have women, in the Boy Scouts, and then you're not going to have men in the Girl Scouts. Even though there's obviously a push right now to do that for some reason. It's just kind of like, really, people. So you also have those gender-specific businesses and groups that say, okay, men only or women only, and So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, feminist movement, it's not meant for guys, it's meant for women. And really, the feminist movement can also be seen as an attack on men, actually, because now they're saying women are the golden star of society and men are dirt. Well, men can be dirt, but so can women. I mean, women have treated guys like dirt, and men have also treated women like dirt. But there is now a tendency for the guy to be the real victim in the struggle in the custody battles, because there have been women that have been abusive to their children or their spouse, and they go to jail, and then the men have to take custody of the children, and then it just so there. For instance, I had a next door neighbor who she is, to some, well, not my words, theirs. She seems to be like the devil incarnate, and well, I mean, obviously that's theologically unreasonable, but there's, and she is just, she just, verbally attacks her ex-husband. Her ex-husband, and she was just, and, well, she spoiled the kids too, but, or really didn't pay attention to him, and it was a bad situation, and I just felt sorry. We all felt sorry for the guys involved and with her, and it just, it was a bad situation. Now, should they have divorced because of that? No, it's not being unfaithful. That it just means that the husband just had a really nasty wife. It so does that mean does she have the rights of, but but women say, well, no, we have the right to, do all these things, and to, have equal pay and have the equal roles, and like, I agree that women should have the same pay rate as men, but typically what happens is when you try to fight do gender equality issues, they typically try to do the angle from pay amount as opposed to hours worked, or as opposed to role equality. But naturally, since you have two different genders, they're gonna men and women are gonna have different roles in society, but that doesn't mean they can't have the same pay rate. In other words, a woman should be paid, if a guy's getting paid $8.25 an hour, then the woman should get $8.25 an hour. But the thing is, men generally work more than women, because women tend to stay at home, take care of the kids, or they'll that's what happens, and then men will work more, and men generally have this sense to need to provide for their family. Now, that doesn't mean all men are married or all women are married, but just the general sense that men will provide for their family, so they have the incentive to work more hours, whereas women have to provide the support role for the family, and they will, like for, well, medical stuff especially, like nursing especially, and so women generally provide a supporting role, whereas guys will have that primary role, but it comes from a God-given natural incentive, and that doesn't come from that doesn't come from a an arbitrary need to do these things. So in other words, like if the wife of, for instance, if the wife at home is working 40 hours a week, and then the guys can only work 20 hours, doesn't mean the guy's in sin. It's just that the woman is just being the breadwinner at that point in time, and then the guy just has to provide a different way for his family. And you'll see that happen. That's not a sin at all. It's just that as long as the guy is consciously providing for his family, he's fine, and then if the woman has to do it, then that's a cultural thing, and cultural things aren't bad. It isn't bad for at all for a woman to work more hours than guys, and vice versa. So uh, the and then you also so anyway, equality and role, so equality and role is absurd, and then but equality and pay and equality and justice, those things aren't. But the thing is, those issues can still be debated because there's still those nuances. Now, I think a lot of what spurred the feminist movement was because women were treated as subhuman or a substandard class in American society and in society for general for years because of the over application. Because, well, I shouldn't say over application because that might mean something. I should say the misapplication of okay. Sorry, I got cut off there. Um, Basically, the the issue with that is I think it was a misapplication of scripture saying that you know like some like where the role of a pastor is a guys only, and then where the husband has to be the head of the household. Those things are the different roles that men are supposed to take absolutely commanded by God, and basically men can be pastors and preachers, and then that women are and then that men are supposed to be the head of the household, the head of the family, and then that is the commandment by God. But that doesn't mean that the women don't have an important role. In fact, their role is really important because they have to play that maternal role and supporting role in the church that only they are able to carry out. Now that doesn't mean not all men are going to be preachers or pastors or whatever. They're going to play some supporting role too. But the thing is, can't can women are more effective at teaching women about more issues of life and stuff. So they're going to have a teaching quite a teaching role in the church, especially toward other women, and then guys have that toward guys. But then preachers are can have to preach to the whole congregation, whereas women have that special supporting role for the church, and you know kind of you know being that support in that general support role. Now but unfortunately, I think a lot of that carried over to the other functional roles in society, such as government, regular jobs, companies, things like that, and so they applied something that was actually pretty specific, saying, "Okay, guys, you have to be head of the household, and you are qualified to be preachers if you meet XYZ conditions." Um, that was the specific. Other than that, women could, like for instance, women could be president of the United States. It wouldn't be sinning doing that. It wouldn't be a sin for women to do that, or be president of the company, CEO, the head honcho of Apple, or something like that. That is completely fine. There's no commandment saying that Sally of Toronto can't be president of Apple Incorporated. It's just not there, and there's no evidence of saying, oh, a woman can't be president of the United States. It's just not there. If you try to stretch, and if you try it, well, you'll be stretching the truth, and basically the way you would argue that women shouldn't be the head of government or whatever is by arbitrary cultural standards. And so you could argue it by arbitrary cultural standards, but you can't argue it biblically. Basically, you have to the only things you can are that are argued are, should there be women pastors? No, there shouldn't be. And then should the woman be the head of the household? No. Now, if there's now obviously if the husband dies, the the mother, of the children and all that still have authority over the children, because still have to pay your parents even if it's just the one there. So but once the kids are grown, it's just kind of like you still have to honor your parents, but obviously once you're not a child anymore, you're a fully grown man, you're out basically out of the house. It's generally, and that's a cult, and the out of the house part is generally considered a cultural thing, but the honor your parents isn't. That one, the honor your parents commandment is universal, but the getting out of the house, or out of the house rules basically is a little more of a cultural standard. So and that's generally how that'll function in society. But the feminist movement, generally it's not. It's generally an entitlement mentality now, and that's the contemporary feminist movement. It's not like how it was 130 some years, 120 or 110, or a very long time ago. And so when it's just kind of like, I would actually view the modern feminist movement as a very brutal and savage what's that? Well, it's just a very brutal thing to do to women, really, because they are taking out the special role that they have in the sight of God, really, because women have the role of being mothers, wives, the supporting role in society, and the rights that they have been given because the Bible Christianity says that women should not abort their babies because they are a separate human life from them, and that they have these special roles in society, along with being able to hold a 40-hour-a-week job and being able to being able to get the same pay rate as men. And it just like now, and also equal suffrage, and being able to be involved as they are now in society. Now, obviously, America wasn't perfect. I mean, 150 some years ago, or even at the founding, women didn't have the rights to go into politics or be viewed as culturally as being able to be authorities, basically. But now it's like, oh, women can be authorities in these areas, and it's just we have definitely improved since the founding of our country. We're still not perfect, though, and women still are discriminated against, but not on the major legal as a whole. And it just kind of like the modern feminist movement now is just kind of demonizing. Is pretty much just demonizing women in general. So those are my thoughts on that, and that's just a introductory video, and I hope to do more. And again, this video was about the contemporary modern feminist movement, not the feminist movements from yesteryear. And those videos I will cover later. But for now, I hope you guys have a good day, and God bless.